have a rough idea on how I want to go through it, but basically in a nutshell, my name's JB. I've been in the industry for 10 years. I work with Don Collier and the group in East Tennessee for the Rocky Top Wine Trail, and I'm currently treasurer for the state association. What we've done recently, and the reason Adam's asked me to do this, is we, over the course of the last 2 to 3 years, have tried a bunch of different wine trails across East Tennessee. Some have been effective, some have been not as effective. Rocky Top Wine Trail has been in existence now for going on 11 years, and that trail has been very successful and has grown over time, and we'll talk about that too. And most recently, as of September 1st, we created and implemented a Gatlinburg wine trail with the support of Cades Cove Cellars, primarily, and then we also have another partner on the trail who's not with us today, and that's Bootlegger's Winery in Gatlinburg. So it's going to be more of a case study on what we did to ensure that Gatlinburg was a successful start. And I would argue, and I can ask the two that are here with us on it, it's been a fairly successful start. We still have challenges just like anyone, but it kicked off 30% better than we expected. So it went really well. So anyway, briefly, why wine trails work. I had someone else help me with this presentation, and so she put in some notes for me that I did not update, so please ignore those. Using the Rocky Top Wine Trail and the Gatlinburg Wine Trail as a case study, we're talking about how collaborative marketing efforts in a region can help benefit everyone in the grape and wine industry. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So what is the Rocky Top Wine Trail? It's pretty simple. You don't have to read that. In essence, it's a group of 5 wineries located in Sevierville and Pigeon Forge now that collaborate for marketing efforts to create a wine trail. How does it work? Basically, you come in, you do a tasting, you get a passport. The passports are the ones we printed out, sent out and set out in front of you. That's the actual trail item that you need to get customers to participate. You start at one, you get handed a passport. Hey, did you know about the wine trail? And then they go on the trail. Every time they go to the location, they get a stamp. And as they go along, they get different rewards. So after 3 locations on the Rocky Top Wine Trail, they get a free logoed wine glass. And after the final stop, they get an additional gift, and that gift does change. The gift is important. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. So some stats about the wine trail. It's been going on for about 10 years. In those 10 years, that's not accurate. That's why I said don't pay attention. We have roughly 40 to 50,000 people a year participate in the Rocky Top Wine Trail. Now, complete the wine trail, meaning going to at least 3. That's what we consider completion. We have over 200,000 people actively engaged with the trail. So because we hand out roughly that many passports. But that's 50,000 people a year, give or take. Our peak was 70,000, and the lowest we've seen in that time frame was probably about 35 when we first started out. It is a highly trafficked tourist area. However, that isn't the only reason it was successful. What's the Gatlinburg Wine Trail? It was launched September 1st, and then she said, if you want to say anything else, do it here, blah, 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 blah. That's why I really like her. She's really helpful. So blah, 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 blah. But in a nutshell, we're going to be talking about the Gatlinburg Wine Trail. So, September 1st, it kicked off. It is a partnership between, and I'll name the wineries, you don't need to know this, but Sugarland Cellars Winery in Gatlinburg. They've been around since 2011. Cades Cove Cellars in Wares Valley, which is brand new. It's a satellite location for Cades Cove. Cades Cove Townsend, which has been there since 2014. And a new winery that opened up called Little Bear Winery, which is a satellite for Sugarlands. So you're getting the picture. It's multiple locations with similarities to them. And Bootlegger's Winery. And they are located in Old Smoky Holler, right next to the original Old Smoky Distillery. So that's the combination. But what I want to talk to you guys about is what it takes to make it truly successful as a launch. So what did we do? Take a look at your notes. So let me grab those real quick, because this is where you're going to want to look at them a little. These are actually the notes we used to train for the wine trail. So they're pretty detailed. They're pretty specific. Yeah, JD, right there. If you need copies, they're right here. If you need any.
Yep.
So what's the point of doing a wine trail? It increases new customer base, and it helps build the industry as a whole. So those are 2 key things that you get out of the wine trail. And what's interesting is, let's talk about that for a second. How many other industries can do something like a wine trail? Do you think that there would be a fast food trail anytime? Do you think Burger King and McDonald's and Wendy's going to want to get on a trail together and send people around even if people wanted to do that? No. because they are direct competition, right? So the reason a wine trail works is because what do we all do that's unique to the wine industry? We each make our own wines, right? So Billy's wines are different than my wines, are different than Cameron's wines, Carrie's, and so on and so forth. So what's exciting about this is you're looking at a customer, you're saying, hey, yeah, you visited a winery, great. Why don't you go visit these other 3 who have entirely different wines that represent the industry and the area and try these out? And all of a sudden, they get excited. And that's why they go. Adam mentioned, and this came from Melanie Beecham in the Department of Tourism, wine visitors spend more money than the standard visitor in Tennessee when it comes to visitation. I think it's more than like 20-fold. I don't have those numbers with me, and Melanie's going to get them to us. But it's substantial. And it generates money for everyone on the trail. So it's not just one place that's benefiting, it's everyone involved. So, all of this is about the training on how and when to do it. What makes the trail successful? When you do it, and Bart's on with us, and he's got the West Tennessee Trail, so they're still encouraging and trying to get that together. But the most important thing is work together and not against each other. So, and I know that seems simple, but it's actually the most important thing you can do. If you have a wine trail, the first thing we do when we start a new wine trail is we have a training. And you bring staff from each of the properties. And what's the number one thing you tell them? Absolutely no bad-mouthing any other property, regardless of the reasons, even if you think it's legitimate. You do not do that. And when that is held carefully and people actually follow those rules, it makes a huge difference. And we've seen that in the Gatlinburg Wine Trail, because when we kicked off, we did that training. We went through that process and had everyone understand, I think we called it shade. Don't throw shade at the other wineries. It stuck. And we did notice that 2 or 3 people, even on the trail, still did that. They still threw shade against some of the other properties. But in general, 80 to 90% of the employees paid attention, and they were promoting each other. The trail had 3,000 people go to 3 stops in the first month with 0 marketing dollars expended. No, not a dime was expended on marketing. And I think we're going to exceed that in October. We haven't seen it yet either. But number 1, you have to work together. And when do you hand out the passports too? That's really important as well. So when you start a wine trail, and please ask questions if anything doesn't make sense about a wine trail. I think everyone in here is pretty familiar with wine trails. I'd like to make a comment
on what you just said about bad-mouthing.
Sure.
We bought the Chestnut Hill Winery 12 years ago, and the previous owners did not have a good relationship with anybody, period. And it stigmatized the winery to a certain extent that it has taken us every bit of 12 years to overcome that, and we still have people come in and say, oh, we were here when 2004, and people were so rude. Well, we know it wasn't us that owned it at that time. We know it wasn't our employees. I'm just saying, people remember more so bad-mouthing than they'll ever remember anybody saying anything good about you.
Now, here's the trick. The reverse to that, though, is you know what they'll also remember for just as long? When I, at Little Bear Winery, say, I'm glad you guys enjoyed our wine. I'm glad you liked our blackberry blueberry. If you like that, you guys need to go to Kate's Cove and try their Firefly wine, because it is delicious. It's nothing like anything we make here.
Yep.
They will remember me more than they'll remember Kate's Cove, because I was giving a compliment to a competitor. And I'll tell you what, that makes a huge difference. So this wine trail training, the information here is for anyone who knows nothing about a wine trail. I'm trying to take it to the next stage, is what do you do to make a wine trail successful? So if you need help with the basics of it, I'll read through this real quick because we've got a second. But that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the tricks and tips that will make it truly successful. And number 1 is no bad-mouthing. And that's a really good point.
And that's not just for a trail, that's for your business.
No, that's the industry in its entirety. Yeah, absolutely.
What's the distance between one to the other? Or
that's a good point too. So what else makes a wine trail successful? Distance.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I'm the furthest east.
And you're on there too, yeah.
Yeah, and then it goes west.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. That's a good question. So what we've covered so far is, what do you want to do? You need to go through the training. So that's in here. We won't go into detail of that, but primarily be friendly to each other. Talk about when you're going to hand out passports. That's important too. Let me cover that really quickly. When you hand out a passport is not when the customer walks in the store. You, Billy, want to get your revenue from the customer first, right? And then hand out the passport.
That way.
I know. Okay, well, so is this man. And everybody else in the room, hopefully, or else you're not successful. So the reason the wine trail works is you don't have it displayed everywhere. It's not on the walls. It's not at the entrance to the winery. It is behind the counter. And what you have to do is train your staff to hand out the passport at the appropriate time. And the appropriate time is at the conclusion of a tasting after purchase. Now, if they're not going to buy, obviously you go ahead and give them the passport. But you want to get the revenue into the winery first and then send them on the trail. And the reason for that is if you do not do that, it's vitally important because they will not buy your wine. Because as soon as you hand them a passport, they say, oh, I really like wine. There's 75 wines on this wine trail. I need to, I really wanted to buy that Firefly at Cades Cove. You know, I'm going to go visit Little Bear first, see what I like up there. How many of those people come back? None. They will a year from now or two, but you're not going to get them right then. So sorry, that's really important. So the training aspect is when you hand out the passports, be nice and friendly to each other, and then have general frequently asked questions, which are in here too. And I'll cover that at the end. Let's go back to we asked about distance. Close is good first. Then we asked about multiple locations, and we hit on that a little bit. So Gatlinburg is already talking about expanding. So we have one winery who's opened up in Wares Valley. It's help me, please. Tennessee Mountain View Winery. Sorry, thank you, Yardley. Tennessee Mountain View Winery, and they really want on this trail. Well, why wouldn't they? It's going to send it's going to send about 15,000 people to all the wineries in the next 3 months, and they're brand new. So it's a really good influx of support. However, you have to think about that because distance is a problem, but also how many stops you have, how much are you going to get out of it? So that's why, if you remember earlier, I said the gifts are important, right? So when Rocky Top expanded from 3 wineries to 5, what most wine trails have done that has not been successful, not been in my book, and remember this is my opinion, is we were giving a glass at 3, well let's just give a glass at 5. You know, they don't get anything for 3 anymore, they just get something for 5 stops. That doesn't work. What you have to determine, if you want to increase the conversion of people going to more wineries, is to offer an additional incentive as the trail gets larger. So to answer your question, it sounds like you guys got a lot of stops. So that might be a challenge, but what you could do is you could condense it and say, okay, yeah, whatever you get for doing all this trail, you get that. But you get with the 2 or 3 or 4 wineries closest to you and say, hey guys, do we want to offer an additional incentive just for them to complete this portion of it? And that's how you win them. Because when we did that, before we did that, we were not getting a lot of conversion success. We were like at 20%. So if 1,000 people went to 3 wineries on a 5 wine trail, we would get 1,000 people, 200 of them, 20%, showing up at all of the locations. Once we took a really good look at the gifts and incentives and ensured that we were doing them appropriately and it was something people wanted at the time, which can include not just wine-related things. We did a wireless charger where you set your phone down on it, it charges, and it's logoed with our material, and that was the most popular thing we've done. And they weren't cheap, but it increased our conversion rate from 20% to 51%. So think about that. That means that 1,000 people going to 3 stops, now you get 500 going to all of them. And that's exactly what we did at the beginning with the Gatlinburg Wine Trail. So going back to that, our concern was Cades Cove has a location in Townsend and Wares Valley. They're far away. How are we going to get people to go there? We know it's going to help Gatlinburg. How do we help them? We spend the money to get a nice gift. And you'd think we spent a ton. We got a really cool coffee mug. And I'm telling you what, that is the best gift we've ever done on any trail in my experience. People want that mug. They want to buy it. That's also a rule we have. We do not sell wine trail gifts. You can only get the gifts if you complete the trail. I don't care. I've had someone offer me $100 for a glass. I really have. No. No. Sorry, Don. But no, you do not sell the gifts. You do not sell the gifts. You have to make it something that's worthwhile. I might have. Maybe Walt. Shh. But that's vitally important. So the way to overcome those challenges and make a wine trail successful, and that's why this launch went so well, is we thought through those challenges. We came up with something that for us fit the area, because we looked at 4 or 5 different gift ideas, I think, as a group. But we decided on the mug because what are the mountains known for? Camping. You guys are over in Townsend. There's all the campgrounds over there. There's Cades Cove, everything else. People always want a souvenir mug. And guess what's on that mug? People will buy anything that has Gatlinburg on it in that town. So I'm going to switch around for just a second and pick on you, JD, and Carrie for just a second. I know you guys are considering a wine trail in Sweetwater, that area, right?
Well, we've done, we were obviously affiliated with one, and I think one of our biggest downfalls was the distance we were traveling. It was just too far. It was so far. We went from Solly Notch being the furthest south to Pigeon River, and that's a 3.5 hour drive, and it was very complicated. Cates Cove in Townsend was on our trail, and I think we've
Millbridge was on there too.
Yeah, and Millbridge was on there, and so we felt like we needed a place to jump over to meet, but we're realizing now that if we make it smaller, shorter, something they can realistically do, it seems to be well. But go ahead.
What I was going to pick on you for is you guys have an excellent concept. Because so we stole on the idea of camping in Gatlinburg and all that too, get people excited about it. What you guys are considering is working with a partner who's not even in the wine industry.
Right.
And that is who?
Well, they are in the wine industry
Well,
in all of our shops.
I know.
Sweetwater Valley Farms, the cheese place.
Cheese place. So that
And
cheese
they're
and wine.
fully on board with that.
Cheese and wine pair together. They're part of the agricultural industry. It makes sense. And what's exciting about that is it's different than any other wine trail. But what you're doing there is you're finding something that is a draw to people. They're coming there anyway, right? So they're coming to the area, they're going to the cheese place, or they're going to you. And then you're saying, hey, guess what else is right around this area? That's what creates that energy to get it going. And you could expand it further on, but that is a really good way of doing it. Does that help answer your question?
So, like Josh said, he was, what is there, about 10 on there? 10 people?
Oh, no, I think there's more than that, but it includes distilleries and breweries, and it's something that the South Central Tourism did, not really us, but South Central Tourism.
So like Metis, but for your region? Yeah.
Yeah, they've been doing it for, I don't know, 10 years maybe.
We'll see what if you're just asking for an opinion, I would if I were you guys consider getting together and bolstering off of their efforts and creating your own micro version of it that is specific for the wineries.
Is there, I think there's one out there already, is it not?
There's a Natchez Wine Trail and there's the Upper Cumberland.
And so, but I like the idea where you said, hey, maybe 4 of you get together and say, hey, you get a free gift if you visit these 4. And then show the trail where you got the 4th stamp or something.
Exactly, yeah. So that's what we do. So the stamps we collect, going through that just for any who's not familiar with it. Once the completion is done, 3 stops they get the glass, final stop they get the gift. We collect email addresses we will be in Gatlinburg. We do for Rocky Top for continuing marketing efforts and so on and so forth. I want to talk, any other questions right now with what we've talked about? This is good.
Well, I'd like to point out too, when it comes to the gifts, you give them a glass, which is less than $1
80 cents.
for the 3, and so that's an inexpensive gift. But when you're looking at the 5th stop, you need to just bite the bullet. And our rule is $5. We want that 5th stop gift to be worth about $5. Obviously, that's wholesale, so their perceived value to the customer is a $10 gift. So you've got to be in that range to get them. And like he was saying, well, why do I want to spend $5? If you talk about all your advertising, your billboards, your handouts, all this stuff, if you can get a customer in your store for $2.50, it's money well spent. So if you're going to get somebody to visit 2 other wineries above their basic 3 for the glass, at $2.50 a head, it's $5. And so he was saying, the example he used, the 20% to the 50% conversion on 1,000 people. Well, 300 people in your store, if you've got a 70% conversion rate and an average purchase of $20, you're making $10.
And that's exactly.
And then you've just turned 500 people into $5,000, and it cost you $1,000. Well, that's the money you got to spend. And the problem we fight all the time is just, it's so simple, just keep the same gift. No,
Yeah, you got
don't do that. I
change
mean,
it up
the glass, we even switched the glass out, stemless, different style glasses, and it doesn't have to be a wine glass. We do
We do a hurricane glass.
we do a hurricane glass, which is a liquor glass, but that's the most popular glass we give out. The people love them. And when we quit doing them, they're all where they're at, when they're coming back. So you've got a dozen glass styles, so you can flip that glass and keep your cost at $1. But you got to work pretty hard on the $5 gift to keep changing. You just can't do the coffee mug, can't do the charger, even though everybody loves it. You got to move it. So you just got to be constantly looking and researching and finding that gift and keep changing it. Now, that's not to say in 4 or 5 years you can't repeat one that you've got them beating your door down. for it. You can bring it back, but it needs to be a fresh, because where we're at, we get, our average customer visits the area 3 times a year.
Well, but that's Tennessee. Tennessee gets an average visitation of the same areas 2 to 3 times a year.
So
your customer comes
you've
back.
got these people coming back, and you don't want them to say, oh, I took the wine trail last year, it's different, we got this, we got that. So it keeps it fresh.
So Don's
And it's just effort. I mean, the dollar outflow is about the same, but it's the little effort that you're putting into it, that you can't rest on your laurels. It's a new idea every year. You've got to have a new idea every year.
Do you have a
Yeah,
question?
and I was just gonna say it's the same concept with our wines. You know, we're
Yeah.
constantly changing our tasting room to improve, you know, our wine clubs to improve. We're constantly seeking for that new, fresh perspective. So.
And you're with
Natchez Hills Winery.
Natchez Hills, just so everyone knows, I remembered that, but me too. Well, good. No, that's a good point. And fresh is important. And like Don was saying, it's not just the Smoky. I mean, we're talking Smoky Mountain area, but it's not just Smoky Mountain area. It's the 2 to 3 visits a year. That's standard for Tennessee. If they're going to visit your area, if they're not local, they're going to come to that same area 2 to 3 times a year if they like it. So it's pretty standard. Now, I failed you all, and I apologize. I was having some trouble with remembering stuff this morning. I had meant to print out the email that was provided to the other partners that involved cost. Because let's talk about the big elephant in the room. How much does all this cost? Because we love the idea of a lot of money, right?
Free, they give it away.
It's completely free. It doesn't cost anything to start a wine trail. You all should do it. No, that is not true. It costs a lot of money to kick off a wine trail and get it started. However, as Don just said, and I'm really glad, so he's the math genius here when it comes to that stuff. The $10 he got in there, let's back through that. So if you want to write this down, you can. If not, please come see me. I'll give you my card. I will forward you that email, because I don't think we're scared at all of sharing the information on the cost of the wine trail, right? Kim, you guys are cool with that? So, because none of it's proprietary anyway. But the point is, the kickoff of the Gatlinburg Wine Trail cost us right at $13,000. Okay? What was that cost distributed into? None of it was marketing. The cost was passports, which we ordered 50,000 of. If you want to write this down, you can. And they cost us 7 cents a piece, because we have a really good printer. It will be more than that if you can't find a good printer, but 7 cents a piece. So whatever that equates out to. Then we had to get, thank you, how much?
$3,500.
See, that's what I got down for. $3,500 for the passports. For the glasses, they were roughly $1 a piece. They were a little less than $1 a piece, but including shipping, they were roughly $1 a piece. And we started with 5,000 of them. Quickly found out that wasn't enough. But that's $5,000. And then we ordered 2,500 of the final stop gift, which were the mugs, and those were roughly $250 a piece, give or take. So how much is that? $250 a piece at 2,500. 2,500. I know I'm messing with you. Point is, all those things tabulated together was roughly between $13,000 and $15,000. Now you're asking, what's the return? Well, to be clear, we and they and bootleggers have already paid a lot more than that. We've reordered glasses 3 times, and we've ordered mugs once more. So if you think, wineries, a group of wineries that don't have any co-mingling of assets as far as ownership goes are willing to spend that kind of money, it's got to be doing something right? So let's use that math for just a second. To
How
kick
many
off
mugs did you order, excuse me?
Sorry, question?
How many mugs?
Mugs, 2,500. Because we figured if we got 5,000 people, 50% would be 2,500. So
Yeah,
we figured
okay.
that was enough for about 2 months. It ended up being enough for 3.5 weeks, which is great. Because, like I said, we all came together and everything was firing on all cylinders. It went really well. So kicking off a wine trail, making it accessible, thinking it through, making sure you have enough. But here's the return. We had 3,000 people go to 3 stops along the wine trail, right? How many of you know what your conversion rate is? If 10 people walk in the door, this many people are going to buy. You don't have to tell me what it is. Just by a show of hands, how many people know roughly what that conversion is? Okay, good. If you do not know, you need to do that. Even if you only test it for 2 weeks, you need to do it. Because it gives you the math to be able to tell you if the wine trail is making money for it. Now here's why. I'm just going to go ahead and share. Our conversion rate is 7 out of 10. If 10 people walk in the door, 7 of them are going to buy, right? So if I know I got 3,000 people, now I got to use a calculator for this. If I get 3,000 people to come into the winery,
2,100 customers.
that's 20. Thank you, Don. See, all right, calculate 2,100 customers. Now,
We average off of each one.
well, here's the next question: how many of you know what your average transaction amount is? Raise your hand. Tell me what it is, just raise it. All right, let's pretend for a minute that your average transaction amount is $25, okay? That's a little more than a bottle of wine for most of us, it's a bottle of wine and some change. $25 times 2,100 customers, you won't need my.
Would be about $55,000.
Okay, we have 5 wineries on the wine trail. It cost us, let's just say, $15,000. That is $3,000 a piece, and we just generated revenue of $55,000. Does anyone else want to join the wine trail? I know that was really quick, but do you see the distinction there? Wine trails that partner together and work really closely, I don't even know what that multiplier is. It's more than 10 times a return. So your return on your investment is greatly exceeding 10 times return. It's nearly 20 if it all works together. So, and that was a quick mathematical test.
So 7 out of 10, you actually give 10 gifts away, even though 7 just bought.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, so 30%.
But we
we're just
don't
gonna
care
put
if they
in.
buy, and that's the thing you gotta train your staff
You're
at.
giving these glasses
Do not pressure
when
the
they come in the
people.
door, after they.
We always give them at the end.
Thank you for coming here. Thank you for visiting. Here's a free glass. Come see us next time. If they don't even buy anything, but when they go home, they tell their friends and neighbors, we met the friendliest people at this winery in Tennessee. We sampled, we didn't like the product, and they gave us a glass. They're just really nice people. Those people will come visit you, and some of those people may buy something. But you have got that person turned out to be a billboard for you. It didn't cost you the $1 for the glass, and they're all over the United States talking to friends and families about the friendly winery in Tennessee. So you can't buy a billboard for $1.
Now, real quick, before we get off the topic of the money expense, so remember, we spent 15 grand, and we said we sent 3,000 people, and it generated roughly $50,000 of revenue for the winery. We can make stats look as pretty as we want, can't we? Anybody can. Let's assume I'm half wrong. We still spent $3,000, made $25,000. I still think that that's a pretty good return on investment. So if we're half wrong on our stats, if you only get 3 out of 10 people to purchase, you're still generating enough money to continue the wine trail and generate a profit for you if you're at a 50% margin, give or take. So wine trails are effective if they're set up correctly, people work together, and continually improve. We're having a meeting tomorrow to discuss how it's went and the challenges and problems and to continue forward. As long as you do that in a constructive way and continue to improve, that ratio I just gave you will do nothing but increase. Because as you get more people and as you increase your conversions, remember too, your own personal benefit of a wine trail also is incredibly closely tied with how well your staff is trained at selling to people. You can have the best wine trail in the world and send 100,000 people to your store, and if they're so mean that only 1 out of 10 people buy, that wine trail will not help you. So it's really important to know that. And so if you're considering starting a wine trail, we do have some stipulations for the people, at least in our group, who join the trail. And so we do an on-site visit. We talk to the people. We see what their staff's like. We send in mystery guest shoppers to get realistic previews of what their experience is going to be like. Because one of the worst things you can do is have a wine trail and have a few properties on it that are just downright mean, and it makes the whole wine trail fail. So that is very important. You have to have clear guidelines at the beginning as to your expectations on customer service.
And he's right. You got to be picky about who you put on. If you get a bad apple, the wine trail will terminate with that bad stop. If it's a first or second winery and it's a bad experience, they will quit and go do something else because they're on vacation. They've got 2.8 days to do a lot of stuff. They're not going to spend any time doing something unpleasant.
So before we go away from the money, does anyone have any more questions about the expense or potential return for wine trails? Any other questions? Okay.
Are you going to talk about advertising?
Yes.
Okay, I'll shut up then.
No, you're good. All right.
Is there a fee to be on the trail?
No, so that's a good question. There are multiple ways to start up a wine trail. The way the Gatlinburg Trail started it, and we're not saying this is the right way or the wrong way, we just came together and said, let's see if this is going to work. Let's all commit to 6-month trial. And every time we have a bill, we'll just split it evenly amongst the participants. And because we all know each other and we know where we live, we've so far stuck to those rules. And everyone's paid accordingly. Actually, I got to give credit to these guys. They're incredible. So, but there are multiple ways of doing it. JD's group has that we've done in the past is in a monthly, payment to help build a nest egg. ultimately, I want to talk about the final part of funding if no one has questions about cost. The ultimate goal for making an effective, successful wine trail, so we've kicked this off, it's going well for Gatlinburg. Our next step is where do we go from here, right? It's going well, how do we make it work? Well, wouldn't it be great if we could come up with some means of supporting the wine trail and it not costing all of the members 100% of the cost, right? So ultimately, the goal is to create an entity itself that will run the wine trail and can hold events, generate revenue, apply for grants to TDA and other places. And go
Nonprofit
from there.
status.
Huh?
Nonprofit
status, and not just TDA. Nonprofit status gives you a lot of opportunities. So in the long run, to make a long-term successful wine trail, you do want to consider making it its own entity. When you do that, just ensure that you are doing it wisely and appropriately and handling all of the paperwork accurately. Because you can continue to operate a wine trail as we are currently with Gatlinburg, where you all just partner together and pay the bills. But ultimately, it can save everyone a lot of money and still generate the return if you can create its own entity. So that's a good question. Marketing.
The wine trail is to generate traffic to your stores.
Yes.
But some of the things, that's just people that's there. But as the wine trail becomes more successful, then it becomes a marketing entity of its own. Ohio, we've talked about them. They do a Christmas ornament event on their wine trails, and it's, people turn out by the thousands to go on that trail to get those Christmas ornaments. Now, just stop and think, if all of a sudden you send out the emails that you got from these people, you're gonna send out an email blast and say, we've got a Christmas ornament for the month of December or whatever, come on the wine trail and get your Christmas ornaments. Or you could do it some other time of the year for something else. So the trail itself becomes a marketing tool to drive customers to you. It's not just the people that's coming to your area.
And what's nice about that is you've already expended the money for the wine trail, right? So it's not free marketing, but it's an addition to. You're using that trail to enhance your marketing efforts to get more people in. And Don gave a good example. I just handed out another good example that we mirrored off of Ohio as well. Two things before we talk about the card. The ticketed event idea. So we've done a chocolate wine trail, a breakfast wine trail, and other wine trails. These are limited time wine trails. This is another effective and useful tool for an existing wine trail to make revenue and also generate traffic. So we have a chocolate wine trail every October, last Saturday in October. We get about 200 people on the trail, but through the promotion of promoting it, we reach 40,000 people that know about the wine trail. So what happens? I can't make it that weekend. I can't make it that weekend. We'll hear about that chocolate trail for the next 3 months, and they say, hey, I'm here for the trail, can I still do the chocolate? Well, no, that's only one time, but you're here, let's do the trail. So you're getting that cross-promotion of marketing through the efforts that you do. And to be clear, for our purposes from the Rocky Top, what we're looking at doing now is how do we take Ohio's model and some others and generate enough revenue from the wine trail itself to pay for all the costs.
And at the point that chocolate tour that we do, a pairing of wines and chocolates,
$55 a ticket.
we charge them.
Yeah, we charge for
to
that.
go. That's why we just limited to 200 people, because we charge them to do it, and that covers the entire expense of the chocolate and everything. So anything they buy is just gravy.
And what's neat is on average they pay 55 is for the VIP shuttle. It's a $30 ticket for the chocolate trail. What's nice is on average those people spend another $35 per location when they're on that event. So do that math, 200 people, 35. The first time we did a breakfast event, it generated almost $8,000 for every location on the trail.
So you
total.
sell 200
Total.
Sell 200 tickets, and those people come during a window of time.
Yes, yeah,
And
11 to
each
6.
place is open for.
Yeah,
oh,
it's just one day.
One
I saw
day.
that advertised on
It's like
Facebook.
on
Did you?
Saturday.
You're my
Yeah.
target audience,
Oh
so
my
good.
God. Yeah, I was like, I want to go on that so bad, but
We-
I couldn't, but I wanted to.
But see, now you remember and you
Oh
think
yeah,
about
I
it.
saw that on Facebook.
Good, so see?
How many locations did you have for that?
Only 3, so that's another thing too.
3?
You do not have to do an event like that for the entire wine trail. So let's say that Gatlinburg discusses it and Cameron says, we want to do it with Towns and we don't want to do it with Wares Valley. That's cool. You don't have to use the whole trail to do it. As long as the event, bless you, as long as the event benefits the whole group, obviously. It's acceptable. 5 would have been insane.
Was UT involved in that?
No,
Not at all.
they were not. So Rocky Top is the name of the trail, and we just have the rights to the name, so on and so forth. But no, we haven't partnered with UT yet. We have partnered with other businesses to cook the food for us, but we have some chefs inside of the company that help do that for us too. But Ticketed Tuna Winevits are only one example of that. The other one is that card they handed out, the VIP shuttle tour. So we came up with this idea a year and a half ago, and we didn't do it until, September? July maybe? I can't remember now. But anyway, this is a shuttle that we have. It holds 14 people. It's wrapped, and they pay $55 a ticket to go on the wine trail. And it is going great. It is going really good. We are making some decent revenue. We're not spending a lot of money on marketing. We just started that, but for every dollar we spent, we made 7. So that's pretty good. They're not booking out crazy, but what's nice about this group is to get them on the trail, they do the wine trail, right? They paid $55, 14.
No, how many?
All 5 for us because of the way we're situated, but 3 technically. So they go to 3, that way they get their wine glass, right? They get their third stop gift. What's so exciting is they spend roughly $30 on the trail while they're doing it too. So if you get
Per stop.
So if you get 100 people in there,
We had one person spent $600.
yes. And they've never been on the wine trail before.
First stop? Or the third stop?
That was the
Crazy.
first stop.
They spread, when we say $30, we mean per stop. But the 600 was his combined thing. He just kept buying. And the key to this, to make a shuttle work, is the driver.
Yeah.
Because he's giving them the tour at the
Yeah.
winery
Yeah.
Customer
and
service.
the drive around. So if you've got a good driver, it'll work.
Yeah, you gotta have a good
He's got to be able to talk.
talk.
Oh, I got a question about this. Now, do you have to have a special kind of license? Can the
Not
people
for our
drink
van.
on this?
All right, well, so
on
that
the
gets
shuttle
that
and-
gets funny.
Yeah.
Your insurance, it's going to take a little more insurance.
Yeah.
But as long as you're below 14 people on the vehicle,
And the weight
they do
limit.
not have to have a commercial license.
Correct. So make sure the
Really?
vehicle is below the registration for commercial, and you don't have to have a commercial license for that.
And they can't drink on the vehicle,
Well, so technically,
No, we don't. I mean,
we don't allow them to.
but they can
What
actually taste.
the new state law states that there's open container. So to be clear, I'm not saying you should let them drink on the tour. I think it's a very bad idea. Legally, can they? Yeah,
They can, legally.
but
We
it is
don't
not
have-
a good idea.
We don't have that much of an issue because all of our stops are so close together.
Yeah.
You know, you're on it, and 5 minutes off, you're into another winery, and you're tasting again. Now, if you've got 20 or 25 minutes between wineries, then they're going to be inclined to drink. But I would strongly encourage you not to allow them to do that, because you do not want to show up at the 3rd or 4th winery and unload 14 drunk people on that
Or the
wine,
first
because
winery,
they will
because
be
then it
very
gets really
unhappy with having those people in their store.
So the last stop, can they drink on the way home?
No,
No,
you don't want that.
because they'll be sick on your bus.
The question
Yes.
is, can they or should they?
And when they get off of your bus, they're drunk, they get in their automobile to drive back to their hotel, and they wreck, and you're gonna get sued. Not saying you'll lose, but who wants to get sued? They've had enough consumption with the sampling, and I think you just, as long as you're firm about it, say, we are here to have a good time, but we need to be controlled about our consumption. Take it back to your hotel room or whatever.
Now, we've taken this to like the fifth edition of a wine trail. Keep in mind too, there's different levels. Level 1 is 3 wineries. You need at least 3 to have a wine trail. Get that started, kick it off, 3-stop gifts. You add a few locations, you increase a gift onto it to incorporate more conversion between the places. Then you start doing things with the wine trail that help promote it, market it, and also generate revenue for it. Does that make sense to everyone? There's stages in this. If you try to do it all at once, you will fail. Do not do that. Don't try to do it all at once. Pick a thing, get it right, go to the next. Trust me, we've tried. Don't do that. But they are successful if you take the time to really focus. And we limited it. With this trail, we didn't just say, all right, wide open, we're doing it every day. We only offered it Fridays and Saturdays. And then it got so popular, we expanded it to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So over time, and then eventually it's going to be 7 days a week, and then we're going to need another
5
van.
buses.
All right, now I'm
That's
firing
my goal.
myself.
I
I'm
want-
firing myself now.
I want to have 5, and that's what the example that they used in Ohio, the wineries around Lake Erie. When I was up there 14 years ago, that's what she was saying. We tried to talk the hotels into doing it, to put on, and they wouldn't do it because they didn't think it would work. And so they said they finally got one hotel to do it. And they put on a van to take their guests up there. 6 years later, there were 5 hotels that had a van doing the circuit. So it works.
It's Napa Valley eventually is an ultimate thing. And as Dawn said, the Ohio one that does that, Donnie Winchell, for those who don't know her, she's a genius in the industry. She is incredible. And she's helped us get all of these things going. They pay for all of their cost of their wine trail from their events. The wineries that are involved do not have any membership dues for the wine trail.
Because eventually you're going to have to start advertising the trail to, take it to the next level and the next level. So it's going to cost more. If you don't have some offsetting revenues, it becomes quite expensive.
So
Do you have a central location for this bus to join? Is it one spot?
You meet at a spot. There's plenty of parking there. They get in there, they go to the properties, and they drop off at the same
So
place.
they don't meet at one winery and they go from there?
Yeah, they do meet at one winery.
So is it that one winery every time?
Yes.
Okay.
For us it is, yeah. And not only that, we drop them off and pick them up from a place where they can eat. That way they can have breakfast before, or lunch before, or dinner after, or whatever, because you
So
want to
start that
encourage
one
that.
for breakfast?
We do 2 tours a day. We do a 9:30 and we do a
2 o'clock?
2 o'clock.
Good God, for my winery, it'd be an all-day trip because it takes another hour to get to the next winery almost.
To be clear, that program doesn't work for all wine trails. But could you develop it? Yes, you could, because what you could do is say, let's say your winery is too far from another winery. Do you have anything else that's of interest in your area?
Well, yeah, there's some
do you got?
whiskey stores.
What?
Whiskey.
Anything else? Why don't you start one that's a whiskey wine tour?
Whiskey wine tour?
You could do it.
Rick
So
Daniels.
I've been on one similar to that. It's a private company that does it. I can't remember what it's called. We call it the Booze Crew. We got on a bus in Cookville,
yeah.
went to a winery, went to eat brunch, went to a couple of breweries and a distillery, and
Now let's talk about that, Josh, because that's something that a big company would do. That's not something you necessarily want to do for a wine trail. And there's a couple reasons. Number one, and it's in here, and I do want to look at that briefly. And we've still got a little bit of time. Technically, we got until 12:30, so we got about 17 minutes. But 21 and up, we do not allow anyone under the age of 21 to go on these tours, and we do not allow anyone under the age of 21 to participate in the wine trail. They can't get a passport. They don't get stamps. Do some people slip through? Yes. Do they get a drink on the trail? No. We all do a pretty good job of that. But what will happen is someone will walk in their 20s and say, I'm not going to sample, but I'd still like to get a trail card. So they sneak through sometimes. We've had that problem. And it does happen. But there are some rules and standards if you want to be a successful and appropriate wine trail. Out the gate, 21 and up. Absolutely.
And another reason why the smaller trails work better is the fact that, let's stop and think, if you've got 10 stops on the trail and they're spending $30 per stop, that's $300 at the end of the day. Well, you've priced yourself out of the market. So then you're going to have maybe buying 1 or 2 and then not buying for the next 5 or 6 and then buying 1. So the people in the middle of the trail are taking a beating on a deal and they're not going to work too well.
The more locations, the diminishing impact of revenue. There are benefits to growing it though, but you just have to be
If you've
careful.
got the 10 stops, I think what you're going to have to look is perhaps 3 subsets. That one day it's this one and one day the other one.
So did you 5 guys, did you all chip in to buy the bus?
Oh, for ours?
Yeah.
Yes.
You all five wineries chipped in, bought the bus?
Well, I bought the bus. But
Yes, we all split the
I am all
cost.
5
We all split the cost.
So it's a different story. I mean,
So to be clear, if Gatlinburg Wine Trail wanted to get
So-
one, we would probably be discussing splitting the cost of the bus.
you could
Yes.
do that.
That's
I
a good
mean,
question.
that's what you're going to have to do. It's just easier with us because if we say we're going to do it, we just do it, 'cause- but
Did you, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
I was gonna ask, did you rent anything before, or did you just decide to go all in? And
we needed the bus for
Okay.
we needed the bus to take people to festivals.
Ah.
So we already had the bus,
Gotcha.
and we use it for deliveries and other things too, stuff that we have to trap. We had other reasons. So it's kind of nice because it was an auxiliary revenue item for something that was a true liability.
but we're going to turn the bus into the VIP for the 2 days a week. It's not being utilized for something.
Right.
But as I said, my goal is to, within 5 years, to have 5 buses. And those other 4 buses will have no other auxiliary purpose other than just doing these VIP tours.
And to answer a question that's kind of coming from that, is the VIP shuttle promotion and ticket sales generating enough to offset the cost of the bus? Close. And it's just been kicked off. I expect by next year it would be profitable if it was only being utilized for that. So it takes time.
I mean, your maximum revenue, if it's $55 for 14 people, let's assume you're doing 10 people a day at $50 to make it easy, that's $500. And you're only full 100 days a year, well, that's $50,000. That's your ticket sale. That bought your van, and that paid for half your driver.
And your
Does it
insurance.
go out once a week or twice a week?
It goes out 4 days a week, twice a day.
4 days a week?
So then, we were doing 1 tour a day in my example. Let's double that, doing 2 tours a day, 100 days a year. Then it's $100,000 worth of revenue.
How old is it?
July, August.
So you don't know what it's going to expect in the wintertime.
Well, no, and it's going to be down. But see, we didn't have it running during the summer. We've been doing this in September and October, which are shoulder months for us, even though they're good shoulder months.
But it's
So, I mean, we don't have the full story, but from the way we're progressing with almost no advertising, we're starting to advertise it. We think,
See, this is a crazy thing, because she just said something about that 2 days ago, and here you guys already have it out.
I saw her look at you. Here, we've only got about,
You done broke her bubble.
let's say 12 more minutes. So I want to do 2 last
it's new to
things.
you, right?
Yeah, it's still new to you.
No,
You still
I
should
was
do it.
thinking more on a private basis.
Oh, private tours? Well, then you can charge more. So you've got to think about it. If you want to take them to dinner and other stuff, you can make a lot
Right.
more money than $55 a ticket if
Right.
you want to. Because
And you can work with restaurants.
That's right.
I mean, that's one advantage
Hotels.
of an extended tour of 10 people, more driving. You can get the restaurant to say, okay, I'm going to bring you 10 people for lunch, and I'm going to bring you 10 people for dinner, and what are you going to give me?
All right, we're going to take 2 minutes real quick. Find the second page on your handout. It says Trail Customer Facts. You should provide this to everyone on a wine trail anytime you do it. Your own facts, not ours. I mean, ours might be similar, but not the same. Then we're going to leave the rest of the time. 2 minutes on this and then questions. So that we're not just focused on the VIP shuttle. So which wineries are participating on the Gatlinburg Wine Trail? Kate's Cove, Sugarland, Bootleggers, Little Bear, Kate's Cove. How do you know if I have been to a winery? You'll receive a trail card and receive a stamp at each location so you've been there. Basic. How much does the trail cost? It's free. That's important, unless it's a special event. Do I get anything for doing the trail? Yes, you get free samples at each winery. You get a free, for us, stemless wine glass at your third stop and a free coffee mug at your final. How long do I have to complete the Gatlinburg Wine Trail? And this is important. There is no time frame. We started the Rocky Top Wine Trail 10 years ago, and we still have passports coming in that are 10 years old. So there is no time frame. And that's important, too, because you don't want them to make them do it in a day, because that's not a good idea. Where do I have to start and finish? They can start and finish the trail anywhere they'd like. There's not a specific location for that purpose. We're not talking VIP shuttle. We are talking simple, basic, just wine trail. Can my 16-year-old do the trail? Minors are welcome to accompany them, but they must be 21 years or older to participate, sample, get gifts, so on and so forth. What times are the wineries open? This is why I want to have this discussion. All locations on this trail are open 7 days a week, but we recommend that they call the number on the trail card for operating hours. If you're going to do a wine trail, you need to be open. Don't put a winery on there that's only open 1 day a week. It won't work. So wine trails only work if you're open at least 5 to 6 days a week. Minimum, preferably 7. So it's a commitment, and that's why you have to consider who you're putting on.
I'm confused. You said it's free, but I thought you have to buy a passport.
No, you do not have to buy a passport for these standard wine trail. It is entirely free. The wine
And
trail
all
does
those-
not cost a thing.
And all these right here don't charge for tasting.
And none of these locations charge for tastings. In fact, one of them used to. And when they got added onto the trail, they went back to free.
But that's different from the
This is
VIP
not
shuttle.
VIP or ticket. This is just wine trail.
Oh, gotcha.
That's sorry. I was bringing us back. Just wine trail because I want to finish up on that. Good question though. So no, general wine trail is entirely free. I went to one of these places and they never told me about the Gatlinburg Wine Trail. Guys, does that happen? Yes, it does. You just take care of the customer. So what we do is if someone comes to me and says, I was at Bootleggers and they didn't tell me about the passport, our employees are instructed to go ahead and stamp it for Bootleggers because you need to trust the customer and keep them moving on. But things like that are what you have to discuss to have standard rules that everyone follows. Because they might get upset and say, why did you stamp that? How do you know they've been there? I have to trust the customer. We have to keep them happy. So that's important.
Well, with that too, with our wine trail,
Mhm.
if they say this to us, we ask them if they bought something there.
Now that's the
No.
key. So you have,
And then keep the receipt with the card.
well, see, and you can do that if you want that to be your limitations. We decided not to do that. What we do is ask the customer questions. Hey, what was your favorite wine there? Well, it was Bootlegger's Red Barn Blend. Well, I know that's a wine they have. Okay, cool, great. Thank you very much. We make sure they're not lying. Even if they're lying, we still give it to them. We do,
You're not
at
gonna
least.
call them out.
No,
Yeah.
because if you do, it's just a bad situation all the way around.
So if someone came to your winery and said this other winery didn't tell them about it, and you stamped both of them, then they're gonna,
I don't stamp it.
Right, well, you should, because then they will go to the next winery to get the third, to get their glass, and they visited 2 wineries for $1 glass. So your cost was $1, but you still had customers at 2 locations. So you're really, now, the question should be answered if they said, oh, I went to this one, this one, this one, this one, give me the 5th stop gift. You'd probably want to say no to that, but if they just went to one winery and didn't get it stamped, go ahead and give it to
And
them.
remember, these are our best practices. Any individual wine trail can come up with their own decisions, like you can require a receipt. We have found in our experience, as Don just said, it's so much better just to trust the customer when it's a single stamp. Now, I've had people come in and say, oh, I've got, and we're not going to go into all those things. There's a lot of that. But, you know, customer come in and, oh, I've got 15 of my friends in the car and they didn't want to walk in the winery, but we're here for our 3rd stop. Can I get my 15 glasses? No. No, they have to be physically present. Now, if 2 people walk in and say, Mama's in the car and she's too tired to walk in, am I going to give them a 3rd glass? Yes, I am, because I don't want Mama to have to walk into the winery. So there's always exceptions to every rule, but you have to come up with those standards. So the fact that you do require a receipt might be appropriate for your wine trail. Our best practices, though, we've never done that because when we've tried it, it went really bad for us. So just remember, this is best practices from our perspective, so you don't have to follow any of that.
And
you do what you do.
you've got to think, do you want to get into a pissing contest with a customer in your store and
Well,
start
this
into?
is usually if they're leaving and
Yeah.
we've given them the card and stamped our stamp.
Yeah, and like I said, he's right, you know, whatever makes you guys comfortable is what you want to do. But
Absolutely.
we have felt that, you know, we're overly friendly. That, you know, if you said it, you did it, we believe you.
And on the reverse of that coin, I've also banned people from the wine trail before. So keep in mind, there's always an exception to a rule. Recently, I banned some people.
Do you
and I
guys-
enjoyed that.
Do you guys give the same gift? The third stop, is it the same gift?
It changes once a year. We get a new glass.
But all 3 of you give the same
Yes.
gift once a year? Okay.
Correct, yes. So everyone on the wine trail gets the same gift at 3, the same gift at 5, and we're very careful about that. If you're changing gifts out, you'll run them all out, and if you've got a case left, you put it aside and do something else with it. You don't give different gifts.
Because you might bring it back in 5 years.
Well, and what will happen is I went to JD's place and he gave me a t-shirt. Well, JB down there gave me a glass. I want that t-shirt, and JD's all the way out there. What are you going to do for me? You don't want that challenge. So that's a good question too. Good practices. And I guess I did talk too long. Of course, we started late. We have 6
Too many
minutes
questions,
before
I guess.
lunch. This was meant to be like a higher level look at how to make a wine trail successful and not just a startup. So I hope it helped a little. You guys all have experience with this, and most of you were nodding, which means you're familiar with the fact that it's a really difficult thing to do right. And no matter what works for one person isn't going to work for the others. So just bear that in mind. But honestly, work together.
Communication is what I have to say.
Yeah.
And then sometimes that's hard. You know, we elected to do a monthly call and having the right person, having the right, you know, don't just get the phone number of the winery. I mean, you got to have something, and everybody's got to participate. We do our Foothills Wine and Cider Trail, which is what it was, which we're looking to change that to a wine and cheese trail. It was a pay to play per month. Again, we were trying to build up a nest egg, because how do you go, instead of breaking everything down to make it affordable for everybody, but one of our most complicated things was communication.
And JD
and it's-
knows. Well, Tom didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
you're good. I can't overemphasize, and I used to say this on our calls, and we're fortunate in our area that our tourism person in our county, now this is complicated as it is, our tourism person in our county helped promote other wineries outside of our county, but they felt like it was worthwhile. So it's obvious that they see the higher Bs, see that it's an investment for that person to participate in our wine trail, because I did not have time to run the wine trail. I have my plate is full, and everybody else's plate is full as well. But so we were fortunate enough to be able to, and then we had a change in mayor. We got a different tourism person, but they're still on board, and we're revamping our first edition of what the Foothills Wine and Cider Trail was.
You hit two things just then that I forgot that are very good best practices. Number one is pick one person to be the primary point of contact for your wine trail. At least initially. Once it gets going and it's running, it can be delegated out further. But initially, you need one person that their goal is to make sure you don't run out of gifts, you don't run out of passports, you don't run out of glasses, and everybody communicates. And if there's a problem, it can be addressed. One person. And make sure that person is understanding of the commitment they're making, because it's a lot of work. Second, we in Gatlinburg, since we're finishing off with that, the Gatlinburg Chamber of Commerce and ZVB is talking about working with us. We are really close to getting them on board. They were all excited and said they'd do it before the end of the year. I knew that wouldn't happen, but hopefully we can get them by the spring. You want to partner with your local CVBs if you can, in your local tourism markets. And I'll tell you two reasons why. One, you get additional administrative support to run things. The second one, though, is the state budget for tourism is $13 million, give or take. Gatlinburg CVB's budget is greater than that. So just keep in mind that if you can work with any of your local tourism offices, they have money available. And they will support you because you're bringing
your trail, and it won't cost you anything.
And it brings more people into that area. That's their job. That's what they want to do.
That is the one thing our tourism person said, just to throw it out there and realistic. They said they are not providing any money for this trail, but
they say that.
But they are providing money in a person.
They are.
I mean, and to me, that speaks a lot to. I mean, we're only Solid Notch in Monroe County. Didn't have anything to do with Cates Cove. Didn't have anything to do with the other people on the trail. But they knew that trail was bigger than Monroe County, but they were willing to work with us to get people into Monroe County. So I think that's a smart.
But on the collateral literature that they're putting out on the region, if you're there and you're operational, you'll be mentioned along with Dollywood and everything else. They're going to mention your wine trail.
Exactly.
So that's free advertising.
So if anyone wants information on the actual cost of kicking off the Gatlinburg Wine Trail, see me. I'll give you my email address. It's on the hub too and everywhere else. But if you'd like it, let me know. But thank you guys. This was really good. You guys